Sunday, Austin. Welcome to Living Wealthy Radio with your host, Theresa Kuhn.
Good afternoon. You are listening to Living Wealthy Radio, heard every Sunday at noon here on Talk Radio 1370 AM, streaming live at talk1370.com. I am Theresa Kuhn, helping you live wealthier. Resources are available for you at livingwealthyradio.com. Are you a business owner or entrepreneur? Imagine if you had to put your business on the market. Your business is something you've put years and years of blood, sweat, and tears into. And imagine if you lost control during the sale, had to compromise on the terms. How would you feel? Would you feel cheated, helpless? Well, many business owners find themselves in this exact situation every single year in the United States. Over 200,000 businesses go on the market, but only a fraction of those, around 24,000, actually wind up being sold, many times under terms and for amounts that are unfavorable to the business owner. Our guests today are the creators of a system that allows business owners to transition out of their companies with more peace of mind, less stress, and more money in their pockets. They help owners who are ready to sell bypass the high commission business brokers, save on taxes, and really attract the kind of buyers for whom they're looking for. Heath Branson and Patrick McDonald are the creators of Delta Business Services, a small business acquisition firm. They're committed to retiring business owners. How does that sound? Being retired in a way that is worry-free and with a common sense and personal approach to put the business owner in the best position possible. Now, I must mention, in the interest of full disclosure, that I am a member on the board of directors of this firm, and I also own shares in Delta Business Services. With that being said, Heath, Patrick, welcome to Living Wealthy Radio.
Well, it's good to be here, Theresa. Thank you for this call.
Oh, my pleasure. Patrick, are you there?
Thank you. Yes, it's great to be here, Theresa.
Excellent. Well, your backgrounds collectively is, just really so impressive. Starting with Heath, can you share a little bit about how you got involved in the business entrepreneurial world and what qualifies you to create Delta Business Services?
Well, sure. I'd be glad to. I grew up in Austin, the city of ideas. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. I went to the University of Texas at Austin. I got a business degree, and coming out of school, I went into the real estate world. So I went to work for a small brokerage in Austin and quickly became the top salesperson, not only in the office, but in the entire company.
Wow.
I remember the month that I left, I worked 7 days of that month, and I earned more commissions in those 7 days than the entire remaining part of the company combined.
And you were quite young at this point.
I was young, and I was only 6 months into the real estate world, and I was moving and shaking and making things happen, and I loved it. I was in love with real estate. It's my first love. In that 6 month period of time, I had been interviewing around town for my dream job, which was to become a home builder, and I got my shot. The month before, I'd gotten a call from a local home builder, and he wanted me to come on board as a superintendent, and I wound up participating in the development of the largest master plan community in Austin. That's Circle C Ranch. And we have everything out there. Those of you who are in Austin, you're familiar with Circle C. We have our own water district and school district and park system and the Velaway, and we're the home to the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Research Center, and it's basically a little city. I had a hand in developing that in the early stages.
And today, that little project is worth about $3 billion.
Right.
That's
right.
billion with a B, right? And then
As in big bucks.
As in big bucks, exactly. And then you went on to start and grow your own real estate investment company before you retired at a really young age.
Exactly. I was in, it was in 1998, I left and started my own company. 1999, 2000 and 2001, I grew successfully a small real estate investment company, and in those 3 years, I had made enough money to retire. I sold my last asset about 2.5 months prior to the dot bomb bust. I just, having come up in Austin and having seen the real estate debacle of the 80s and cut my teeth on that, I saw that the climate was shifting, and I had seen that weather report before. So I got out of the market, and sure enough, the market cratered.
And your timing was impeccable, and you say, you made enough money to retire, but you really didn't stay idle. You started working with planning churches and doing a lot of not-for-profit. And
I did.
Then you moved back to Texas and got back into the business world, about 8 years ago?
Right. About 2007 is really when I started getting back into the market. There's only so much golf that one can play, and I wanted to help my community. I was living in Florida at the time. I moved to Florida for 4 years. I helped several churches and schools and nonprofits develop their boards and systematize and leverage and raise capital and so forth. Was very successful out there, and it felt good to help the nonprofit side of the coin. That's a sector of the economy that doesn't get a lot of attention from business-minded folks, and they sorely need the help. In 2007, I got back into the market as a buyer of small businesses because I saw the ground shifting. And it was during this time when I met Pat, and we've been working together ever since, and it's been absolutely wonderful. It was such a joy. And so when I got the idea for Delta Business Services, I had to have him.
Well, and Patrick, you're no slouch.
Well, thanks, Theresa. So, I'm a Kansas farm kid. Went to Kansas State University. Have a master's degree in chemical engineering. Worked in the environmental field for about 10 years, and then made a career change over to business consulting. I've worked in IT and management consulting for some of the top companies in the U.S. In various industries. So for McDonald's, I've helped them forecast billions of hamburgers served. With Walmart, I've helped them really understand their everyday low prices and how to optimize that. Worked in media with Time Inc. And with John Deere in the manufacturing facility, DDB, the big advertising agency out of Chicago, Monsanto, the agribusiness company out of St. Louis, JCPenney, American Eagle Outfitters, Eli Lilly, just a really broad spectrum of very large businesses. So, I've basically helped my clients understand the numbers in their businesses and identify the root cause of success and failure, and that's been kind of critical. So I really started my first business back in '93. This was when I was really, really young, and didn't have the kind of success that Heath had with that. It was an internet publishing company. We did receive some real critical acclaim for the work that we'd done, but never were really able to monetize the project. And I guess at the time I didn't understand the approach that was so popular, which was basically to raise so much money from investors that you could never go broke, only to find out a year later that you actually had to have revenues and customers as opposed to just eyeballs. And that was 20 years ago. I learned a lot since then, but it really kind of gave me my first taste for business and wanting to be involved in that. In '97, I went out on my own, established a boutique consulting firm in Chicago. We were really doing what is now referred to as data science. And back then, big data meant anything that wouldn't fit on a floppy disk. But we were doing predictive analytics and data science and management consulting for a number of clients.
Really geeky stuff.
Really, yeah. I'm really very nerdy. So.
Yes, I'm sorry you are.
I will cop to that.
You will cop to that. You are, and we can go into some of your projects worth over $1 billion, and some of your work includes real-time offer optimization, price elasticity, customer segmentation, constraint management, lean methods, Six Sigma. Stuff that most of us have no clue.
So I've really made a study of what it takes to be effective in business. And the great thing is, from the management consulting perspective, the work that I've done, both with SAS Institute and with IBM, has allowed me to get into some pretty big businesses. And when you're working with a Walmart, it doesn't take very much of a movement of the needle inside the organization to have an awful lot of cash show up. Same's true with McDonald's and some of these really bigger organizations. So it's been really fun to work with these guys and help them improve their business. And I got to thinking, and maybe I'm a little slow on the uptake, that, hey, maybe I could do the same thing with some smaller businesses that I could actually own. And that's what really got me into looking at deals and wanting to kind of be in the field. So.
And you met Heath during that process.
Sure.
You both were working with, actually the three of us studied under a business coach, but you met Heath back in 2008, and you guys connected and decided you were going to figure out how to buy businesses. And you guys have quite the story as to your journey on working with the whole process of buying and selling businesses.
Absolutely, it's been a great ride, and I think the initial spark that was so fun is we sat down together at a workshop and said let's look at each other's deals, and we both started talking about the deals we were looking at, and it took us about 2 minutes to figure out we were both looking at the same deal.
Isn't that funny?
We had a good laugh about that, and we spent a lot of time looking at deals ever since.
So Heath, you and Pat were looking at, or over the years, have looked at over 300 deals with business brokers. That's a lot of brain damage. That is a lot of work.
Right. And that was the common thread, is that each and every one of them had a broker on the deal, and you kick this old dog long enough and he's going to get up. I realized that it wasn't necessarily the business or the business owner that was the problem. It was this third wheel component of a business broker that was really souring the deal for both sides of the equation.
So why did it take you 300 business deals to figure this out?
That's a very good question. I having come from the real estate world and having been a broker, I wanted to believe that the intermediary was actually looking out for their client's best interest. That is how I became such a quick success in the real estate world. When a client told me what they were looking for, I didn't go out and try to sell them something that didn't fit their needs. I went out and found something that fit their needs and brought it to them. And that's how I was able to have such a high closing ratio. That's how I was able to be so effective on the phone and in the office, and even earn more commissions in 7 days than the entire rest of the company, which was 40 agents, for the entire month. Not so in the business broker world. So my thinking was colored, and I had to go back and re-examine all of the assumptions that I was making on every single transaction, and ask some really tough questions. They were scary, and so were the answers. And at the end of my interrogation of every single experience, what I saw was that, no, the intermediary is not looking out for their client's best interest. In fact, just the opposite. They're looking out for their own interests, and they're giving their client a raw deal. And that is how I arrived at a new paradigm.
So, Patrick, was that your experience as well?
Absolutely. I think the real challenge was that there's this existing paradigm that's out there, and we have the need to believe that this is the way it's done. You work with mentors, you work with people that have done business deals like this in the past in the mergers and acquisitions area. You go and you think that the broker, particularly first deal out of the process, you think the broker's going to know more than you are because he's been in this field for some time, and you have a level of trust for them. And that takes a while for that to be eroded. And really, as you start looking at a lot of those assumptions that are out there, not just in terms of what the broker wants, but also what the seller is saying and what the seller is asking for, and what you want as a buyer, as somebody who's going to go through the acquisitions process, the financing sources that are out there. There are a number of assumptions about that we had to break actually several paradigms and break through a process that put us in a place where we're really in a position to do a lot of good work for people that are primarily baby boomers right now who have businesses and are ready to retire.
Well, let's talk about the pain that these business owners, these baby boomer business owners, are experiencing today. Let's talk about the problem. The problem is that many of them are old, and I say that respectfully, right? They're in their 60s and 70s, maybe in their 50s, and they just feel old and they feel tired and they feel like they want to move on, right? And they want to transition out of their business. They've had their business for decades, maybe 20, 30, 40 years, and they're looking for a way out. Can you expand on that?
Of course, I'd be happy to. What they're facing is really a psychological barrier to success because they want to sell. They need to find a buyer who has the skills and tools and experience that it takes to take good care of baby. That's the first thing. And competent buyers are in short supply. They are. They're rare, and quite frankly, competent buyers have their choice of business opportunities to take.
So why are competent buyers rare?
The reason why is because the skills and tools that it takes to be consistently successful in business are so rare. And here's a statistic for you. If you look at small businesses and you give businesses 2 years of track record, after 2 years, all of the small businesses that have started, out of all of them, half of them are no longer there after 2 years. After 5 years, 80% of them are gone. And after 10 years, Theresa, 96% of them are gone. And here is the complementary statistic. In the same 10-year period, if you look at the number of small businesses, or I should say the percentage of small businesses that pull financial statements, half of them don't. The other half do. And out of the 50% that do, 47% of them, even though they pull the financial statements, they don't know how to read them. So there's only 3% that pull financial statements on their small business and either know how to read them themselves or they have a financial officer riding shotgun with them that can interpret the financial data so that the business owner can make timely and accurate decisions. And it's those kinds of skills and tools that actually lead to the sustainable success, because the 3% is the 4%.
You know, Heath, if anybody doubts that, just look at how the average person manages their personal finances. And
Right.
you have experiences with this because you've taught a course, Psychology of Money course, where you've met people from all walks of life, right? The poor, the middle class, and the very wealthy,
Yep.
who themselves are confused about their personal finances and debt and savings. So imagine these are the same type of people who try to go out and become entrepreneurs and run a business. They can't manage their household finances, much less a business.
That's exactly right. And you look at these people's personal financial statements and you wonder which end is up. And it becomes very clear if they even have a financial statement, and most of the time they don't. It becomes very clear if they do have a financial statement that their thinking, their thought process, and their belief system, the mental framework that is delivering the decisions is in error. It's almost like a CPU that's given an error message. There's some faulty wiring somewhere. There are some anchors in someone's thinking, in someone's psychology, that are leading them down the path to a wrong conclusion. And until we examine those assumptions, same way I had to examine my assumptions when I thought business brokers were good guys. And I had to question those underlying assumptions. Until we do that, we're not really going to get at the true core root problem of the pain. And I feel for these folks. You name it. The marital strife, trust issues, people have daddy issues, all kinds of psychological barriers to success that are holding them back. And so when I talk about skills and tools, and you'll hear me talk about this throughout the call, and you'll also hear Pat talking about skills and tools. Those skills and tools are not only financial, they're psychological too. And so this void of having the psychological skills and tools, it leads to a cloud of pain that business owners are experiencing. And now not only is the pain around the financial issue itself, but anytime a competent professional comes into the equation to try to help a business owner solve their problem, the cloud of pain overlaps onto that particular person, that advisor, that consultant, who's trying to help but can't, because the mental stronghold is so strong and the pain is so intense that the seller of the business or the person who's making the financial decision cannot think rationally about a solution. They can't get past the mental barriers, and that's the real problem. That's the real core problem.
And not to beat up on business brokers, but when we come back from our break, we are going to go into a little bit deeper as to why business brokers aren't necessarily the best professionals to help a business owner sell their business, and why Delta Business Services has formed strategies to help business owners through the selling process. Mm-hmm. Theresa Kuhn with Living Wealthy Radio. We will be right back.
Living Wealthy Radio. Visit Theresa's team online at livingwealthyradio.com, 1-800-382-0830 now. Call 1-800-382-0830.
Welcome back, Austin, to Living Wealthy Radio with Theresa Kuhn.
We are back from break and talking with Heath and Patrick from Delta Business Services, who have dedicated their professional lives to help business owners with the sometimes painful and difficult process of finding an exit strategy when it's time to sell. Many business owners know this transition is often hard and understand how powerful it can be to have a good strategy. Now, Heath, why is the traditional way that business owners sell their business through business brokers a broke process?
Well, here's why. I'd be glad to speak to that. The problem is that what we think is the best course of action isn't. In over 300 dealings with business brokers, what I've seen time and time again, almost without exception, is that the seller of the business is getting a raw deal. And the reason why they're getting a raw deal is because the intermediary who is supposed to be guiding with competence and experience has neither. Most business brokers have never owned a business of any kind for themselves, maybe a lemonade stand when they were a kid. But no, really, it means that they just don't have the professional expertise.
So they don't understand numbers, they don't understand the financial statements, like what don't they get?
Yes, all of the above. They'll have some superficial knowledge, but the real nuts and bolts experience from having been there and done that, with the leather on their belt, having been to the rodeo, and having the heft from owning a business. There's a difference between owning a business and being the division vice president or being a top salesperson in a business. Those are two completely different things. One is the cowboy at the rodeo. The other one is sitting on the sidelines. And it's only if you've actually been in the field of battle and you know what you're facing when you own a business that you're going to have the true level of competence that it takes to sell one. Most are financially illiterate, truly financially literate. Some of the questions that I come up with and I ask during the course of a meeting or a conference call, they don't have the answers to. They don't pull a statement of cash flows, which is one of the three main financial statements. In fact, it's the most important one. They don't know what operating cash flow is, or free cash flow, or net free cash flow, or any of the really critical metrics that we use to analyze companies. If you're a pro. If you're not a pro, okay, then you're shooting from the hip. But if you're a pro, then you're going to ask the critical questions and use the critical key performance indicators. Brokers are not seasoned veterans. They're basically salespeople. They're professional salespeople.
And who do they represent in the transaction?
Well, now they say that they represent the seller, but long experience has told me and proven to me that no, they don't really represent the seller. They really represent themselves, because they're basically in it for the commission, and the deal is done when you see the customer's taillights, like they say in the car business. They don't participate in any of the risk to the seller. They don't have the competence to structure a deal to minimize risks to the seller and the buyer. And so when you deal with a business broker, you're talking about someone who is serving their own selfish interests.
There is no standardized licensing or state regulation for business brokers, right?
Nope. Unless you're in Florida. And the only reason I know that Florida has one is because I lived there for 4 years. The license out there for a business broker is the same as the license for a real estate broker, but that's the only state. So there isn't an ethical mandate. There isn't a way where you can have recourse if you're the seller of a business and you use the services of a business broker and you get a raw deal, which inevitably you do. There isn't a way where you can get made whole. Many times the process gets drug out if it arrives at a conclusion. If you actually do sell a business, the process is so laborious and painstakingly long that you're just exhausted by the end of it, and you just lay down and take it as fate. and that's just that's not the way to sell a business successfully.
Well, the number that just, the statistic that just absolutely floors me is the one that says that 87% of all businesses listed for sale never sell at all.
Correct. It's a true statistic.
That's crazy.
87% of the ones that are on the market will never sell. And out of the ones that do sell, they're only 1 in 4 of those truly has a successful outcome. The reason for the 87% number is because you have broker incompetence. The reason for the 1 in 4 being successful and 3 out of 4 therefore being unsuccessful is because of a lack of culture integration.
What does
there
that
just
mean?
isn't the skills and tools from the buyer that are present to successfully transition a company from old ownership to new ownership. So when you add everything up and you do the math, what you get for a seller of a business who does it the traditional way is you get a 96.75% chance of either not selling or having an unsuccessful outcome. And you get a 3.25% chance of having a successful outcome. And this I tally up as a failure. This is a failure of the system. This is a failure in the market. And it is directly attributed to a lack of skills and tools, mainly by the broker, mainly by an intermediary, but also by business buyers. And they don't have the skills and tools that it takes to own and run the business after they bought it.
That is such a crazy percentage. That means that out of 100 tired business owners out there, that only maybe 4 will successfully transition out of their business.
That's it. 3 to 4. No, it's true.
That's a huge problem.
That is a huge problem, and that's a problem that we address. We've got the solution to fix that problem.
Patrick, can you speak about the Delta Business Solution?
You bet. And I think the interesting thing about that particular statistic, Theresa, is that when Heath and I first started looking at it, one of the things that we realized we wanted to have happen was we wanted to turn those numbers upside down. We wanted to definitely shoot for somewhere in the 90-95% success rate in terms of doing a transaction. And what we really identified early on was that we realized we were going to have to change our thinking. And we went back and looked at a lot of the assumptions that are there under the current process, and said, what are the key things that owners really want in terms of selling? So we had to put ourselves in the seller's shoes and answer the kinds of questions that they were looking at. Put ourselves in their position and say, hey, if I were ready to retire and wanted to sell my business, what would I be looking for? And the first thing we really realized was that the real challenge around the traditional method was that if I'm a business owner, and let's say I've got a nice little business that's putting off $300,000 a year in cash profits, the traditional sale for that is going to run $900,000, maybe $1 million for the sale price on that. My broker's going to take 10%. Taxman's going to take at least 20%. I'm going to have some legal fees. So let's say I'm around $700,000 in profit that I was that I'm going to end up with, or proceeds for those sales for that sale. Now I've got to go back and find a way to reinvest that cash into something that's going to be secure. And for most business owners, if they're really good from an investment perspective, they might get better money. But most of them are really going to be looking for something that they think is fairly secure, and you can get that at maybe 10%, maybe 5%, somewhere around those kinds of returns, depending upon your risk tolerance. So they were really looking at converting their $300,000 a year in cash profits from their business into about a $70,000 a year in cash from the sale of their business.
Ouch. That's a huge change in their living style and the amount of...
Exactly. And the challenge for us as a business buyer was we were going to have to raise capital. And capital is somewhat expensive. And we finally kind of came to the real clear conclusion that, hey, you know what if we instead of doing a traditional loan, set this up so that the business became an annuity, and we'd give the seller what he's looking for, that certain cash flow for the sale of the business for the rest of their lives. And that was kind of, I think, the genius of this particular approach. And so basically what we're doing in our offer is we're taking your business and we're turning it into an annuity that you and your spouse will have for the rest of your natural lives.
So you're solving the seller's problem of exiting or transitioning out of their business, but with enough money, enough income where their style of living isn't dropping from, let's say, $300,000 to $70,000, because that's pretty big. I mean, that's huge, right? And so you're solving the seller's problem, and you're solving your problem, which as a buyer of a business, you had the broker problem, the intermediary of, how to get deal flow, how to get, enough businesses to look at and circumvent the broker, right?
Right, and it's not just the broker. We've spent an awful lot of time talking about brokers on this, but once we've got that agreement in place, it's not so much the brokers anymore. Now it's the bank, or it's your mezzanine lender, or it's a private equity company that's going to be putting up the portion of the capital that you need to be able to do that. So you're bringing in additional parties that further complicate things, and with Delta, we don't really have to do that. It's between the seller and Delta. We're going to give you a certain annuity. There's minimal legal fees, no broker fees, virtually no taxes, the ability to continue to shelter some of your business expenses after the transaction as a business. We've set it up so that you'll still have the ability to leave a legacy to your estate. And I think the other thing that's important to a lot of business owners as well is that we have the skills and tools to actually run the business and grow it, and we're not going to compromise the relationships that you've developed with your customers, with your employees, and the other stakeholders. And that's the advantage. I think one of the advantages I think we bring to the table.
So, what's the big picture in terms of what does it look like for the seller of the business or the owner of the business after Delta gets involved?
Sure. So we have a really quick process in terms of walking into the solution. So kind of a 5-step deal. First thing is you go to the website. You can download our non-disclosure agreement. We run your financials through our analysis package to see how you're doing, and within 24 hours of getting your financials and the NDA agreement, we'll either come back with a yes, we want to proceed, or no, we're not ready yet. And even if it's not ready yet, we're going to provide that financial analysis report back to you. You can use it as a blueprint to make changes and improvements in your business. There's no fee or no cost for that, and we'll keep in touch with you. And when you are ready, we can circle back and try again. Once we get a yes, we move on to that second step. Then we'll put together a term sheet. This takes about 72 hours that specifies the key points of the deal. You accept that. We move on to due diligence. This is a little more in-depth, about 6 weeks, where we sift through the business and complete the process of validating all the aspects of the business and end up with definitive agreements. The fourth step is to sign those agreements, and we've closed the transaction. And on the fifth step, we have a 90-day transition period where we work with you. We're taking over the management of the business while working closely with you to transition, and you can begin transitioning to your retirement. And what your retirement then looks like is, regular monthly paychecks from Delta as an annuity for the rest of your natural life, and probably a balloon payment to your estate at the end. And that's basically what you walk away with. You're going to have the certainty of strong financial income for the remainder of your days, and comfort in the fact that somebody who has skills and tools to operate and grow your business is at the helm, and that's basically what it looks like.
So what kind of assurances does the seller have that Delta's not going to run the business to the ground, right?
Sure. That's one of the key things that we looked at, and that's one of the things that really kind of makes us different. So there's, in effect, as a seller, what you're doing is you are providing some owner financing, and sellers never want to do owner financing because of the risk of default. And what we came to really realize was that was one of the key things that was preventing sellers from looking at more creative deals. And what we realized was we needed something that was going to really provide certainty for that success. So one of the things that we offer sellers and are able to offer sellers is a payment guarantee. And our guarantee is a little bit different. If you go in and ask most investors or companies to sign a personal guarantee, you have the opportunity to go back and sue them and provide a recourse. That's not the kind of guarantee that we do, because what we realize is that any decent businessman is going to understand how to protect their assets, how to file for bankruptcy if that's necessary, and we wanted to make sure that wasn't an issue for owners. So what we decided to do was our guarantee is going to be backed by assets, and those assets are first and foremost the business, but an additional nearly 100% assets in the form of very secure assets such as real estate and cash. So for a percentage of the cash flow that comes out of the business, a premium for the guarantee, there's the assurance that income is going to be there for the end of until the end of your days. And should Delta not perform the way that we said we did, you'll have recourse to go back and get the assets of the business as whatever's left that might sell in the market, and those that additional collateral in terms of protection as additional security to ensure that you're going to get what you needed out of the transition.
So in layman's terms, what you're saying is, if I'm the seller of a business that Delta buys or actually takes over, right? I will receive, like annuity, payments for the rest of my life. Upon my death, my family will get the remainder of the money that was not paid to me while I was living. Right? The assurances that I, as the seller, have that Delta is going to perform on this agreement is the fact that if Delta doesn't, or if the business goes under, then I can take back the business and the assets and the real estate of the business. And there's a guarantee, there's a third party out there that's going to guarantee the remainder of the dollars that Delta promised me. Is that correct?
That's mostly correct. The one minor distinction is that as a seller, you'll have no need to take back the assets of the business. The party that's providing the guarantee will actually take those assets themselves, sell them, and pay you the remaining proceeds, or the remaining monies due out of the proceeds of the sale of the assets of the business and the additional collateralized assets that are there to basically protect the value of your sale.
So I don't have to worry about, as the seller, I don't have to worry about the fact that I might have to come out of retirement to run my business again or liquidate my business in order to get money to continue funding my retirement. The third party who guaranteed that Delta was going to perform is the one that's going to be paying me, as the seller, the remainder of the monies that are owed to me.
That's correct.
So, wow, how did you guys come up with this?
Many years of experience and trying different things. And ultimately, it was a video by Joel Barker, the futurist, the scientist, who came up with the new business of paradigms. He had a video that I saw that inspired me to take a completely new look at how we do business. And when I communicated this with Pat, of course, he hopped online, he saw the video, he started thinking, well, goodness, we need to address this question. And so once we knew the right questions to ask, it became very easy to come up with logical solutions that fit. And then all the pieces of the puzzle fit logically together and painted the picture of certainty of success for sellers.
Well, one of the things that impressed me so much about working with both of you and agreeing to be a member of the board and join Delta was the fact that your track record, your combined decades, years of experience in business dealings, the relationships that you have in the marketplace. One goes to Delta Business Services and looks at the testimonials, reads the testimonials and the accolades that you have. It really is so impressive. The website is deltabusinessservices.com. On livingwealthyradio.com, we will post a recording of this show and also have the links to Delta. So if you're a business owner, you can go check that out. Heath Branson and Patrick McDonald, over 40 years of experience in business. You guys figured out what your competition was in terms of buying businesses, what business sellers were looking for. And from that knowledge and experience, you developed the Delta Business Solution, working with Delta Business Services to empower business owners when it comes time to sell their businesses. You're able to execute intelligently, effectively, for business owners. And Heath, Patrick, thank you so much for joining me today at Living Wealthy Radio. Any last words you'd like to say?
Pat?
Just come out to the website, take a look at the I Want My Free Report button, put in your email, and download our report that really gets into the details of how to sell your business, get cash flow for life, and pay zero taxes.
There you go. I want to just say make one brief point, and articulate the kinds of businesses that we look for when we do purchase. We're looking for businesses with a minimum of $2 million a year in sales and a minimum of $500,000 a year in cash profits. We buy simple businesses. These are things like pest control companies, HVAC and plumbing companies. We do funeral homes. We do body shops. We do car washes and things like that. These are businesses that aren't going out of style and can't be exported to a foreign country. And if you have something like this, by all means, go to the website. Do yourself a favor. Go to the website, get the free report. We'll fire that to you straight away. And that'll get the ball rolling and the conversation started, and we can move on down the road to a successful outcome for you.
Heath, Patrick, thank you so much for joining us today on Living Wealthy Radio.
Thank you, Theresa.
Thank you.
My pleasure. That's deltabusinessservices.com or livingwealthyradio.com. We'll have the links on the website.
This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. The info being presented does not consider your particular financial objectives or situation and does not make personalized recommendations. This material is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified tax advisor or legal counsel or other professional, and you should not use the information in place of a personal consultation regarding your specific situation or needs prior to taking any action based on this information. We believe the info provided is reliable, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, timeliness, or completeness.